Hello everyone and welcome to another game from day one of the St. Louis Rapid and Blitz tournament. It's the wildcard Richard Rapport versus Magnus Carlsen. Carlsen with a loss from game one now faces Rapport, and a lot of you have suggested it, so it's a really great game. And for those of you who really missed Meadow, I decided to put, instead of the painting behind me, this very nice photo of Meadow with a nice flower in his hair. So there you have it. Hope you enjoyed that as well. Now let's check out the game. Rapport with the white pieces opens with knight to f3. Sorry about that. So we have the reti on the board. We have d5 by Carlsen, and we have g3, starting the King's Indian attack now. We have bishop to g4. Carlsen goes for the Keres variation of it, and now bishop to g2. Fianchettoing the light square bishop, preparing the castle. We have e6 by Magnus, and now c4, just challenging the center. Carlsen strengthens it with c6. We have castles by Rapport, knight to f6, and now c captures on d5. A one trade in the center. First, Carlsen gets rid of the knight here. We have bishop captures, and c captures on d5. So here, Carlsen decides to give up the bishop pair early in the game, but if white is unable to do something about black's strong chain here, white's light square bishop also might not be all that great. Rapport continues with d4. We have knight to c6 and now e3. We have bishop to e7. Carlsen prepares the castle kingside, knight to c3, and we have just castles. Queen to e2, and now rook to c8 by Magnus, putting a rook on a nice open c-file. And now there are 7 games, I believe, in the database where bishop to d2 was played, but here we have rook to d1 by Rapport. Now, it is a new move, but it's not really a new move, as we will once again transpose into some of the games that were played before. We have queen d7, developing the queen, connecting rooks by Magnus, and now bishop to d2. We have rook fd8. Now both of the rooks are nicely developed. Bishop to e1. Now the rook on the d file is again very strong, and knight to e8. Carlsen is ready to now push f5 to really control the e4 square and prevent e4 from ever being played by Rapport. Now, there is one game where bishop to g2 was played, but here Rapport plays rook a to c1, and it is now a completely new game on our hands. Also, you could think about playing something like e4 here, with the idea that if maybe captures with the queen, and now if knight captures, you can maybe capture on b7, but it doesn't work because Carlsen here has knight f6. And now you have to move the queen, you lose the pawn, and there is no compensation for this free pawn. So rook ac1, a new move by Rapport, and Carlsen has to now play a completely new game with f5 by Carlsen. Now e4 is never an issue here. With bishop back to g2, and now comes knight to f6. Now that f5 has been played, this knight is returning to f6. Knight e4 could be an idea in the future. We'll see. With knight to a4 by Rapport, wanting to go to c5. Carlsen prevents that, of course. And now, as the knight no longer has anything to do on a4, just knight back to c3. And Carlsen does the same. Knight to a5, trying to get b3 from Rapport. For example, if b3, then you could go for some bishop a3, harassing the rook, maybe trying to win the c-file. And then after c2, it's not really a useful rook on c2 because you will not be able to double rooks on the c-file. Carlsen will just play rook c6, double up rooks on the c-file, and it is a small accomplishment, which, if you don't have to give black, don't give him anything. So instead, knight to b1, allowing knight c4, but offering a trade of rooks. Carlsen plays knight c4, and now rook to c2, putting more defense to the b2 pawn, also preparing now to double up rooks on the c-file, because if in that line bishop to a3 prevented exactly that. And here, even though Carlsen lost game 1 to Ding, he's not discouraged from starting an attack on the king side with g5. Rapport continues with his plan, rook dc1, and now g4, like AlphaZero, grabbing more space on the king side. Bishop to f1, as we already mentioned, the bishop will not be very useful on this diagonal, and now knight to e4, as you cannot capture the knight. The bishop is now on f1. With b3, pushing the knight back, knight to d6 now, and here there is this quote about the board that we often use: even a bad plan is better than no plan, but there is it means that if you start something, it's better than starting nothing. If you start nothing, then a good player will easily punish that. But there's also a saying that says, I don't know if there's like really a saying about that. If you realize what your opponent is doing, there's really no need to stop it if it's a bad plan. Just allow him to execute it, and his position should deteriorate by itself. Here is one such example that maybe happened. We have queen to a6 by Rapport. His idea is a4, a5. He wants to create weaknesses here to attack. Carlsen plays rook captures on c2. We have rook captures on c2, and now just king f7, improving the position of his king. We have a4 by Rapport, preparing a5, and Carlsen continues his attack on the king side with h5, and now a5. Carlsen goes rook b8, defends the b6 pawn. We have captures, captures, and now comes queen to a2. And here, Carlsen plays queen to b7. And there is no good way of defending the b3 pawn. Here, if you play something like b4, then you free the c4 square for Carlsen's knight. And now you have two monster knights here, the c4 and the e4 knight, which you would probably have to capture. And even if you lose a pawn here, it's not a problem because a5 now prevents you from capturing. If you capture, you lose the knight here. So you'd have to play something like queen c7. Even after a queen trade, you get a captures on b4, and now Carlsen would have this powerful passed b pawn, and white would have a very hard time stopping it. So here Rapport finds a very active plan, bishop to a5. He gives up the b3 pawn for this rook to c7 lift, as the bishop now is guarding the c7 square. Carlsen calculates it right. We have rook captures on b3, rook to c7, and now queen back to b8. And you don't want the knight on b1 to remain a target, knight to d2, as the bishop also guards the knight here. So what do you play here? Here, Carlsen found a very nice idea. Rook to b2, just attacking the queen and seems to be winning a piece. Rapport had this planned out. We have queen to a4, and now Magnus just grabs the piece. We have knight captures on d2, and now queen to d7, now threatening to capture the bishop here, but this does not work. So here, Carlsen first played knight f3 check with king to h1, and now feel free to pause the video and try to find a very nice finishing touch Magnus used to end this game. Well, I give you a couple of seconds. For those of you who were able to do it, congratulations, you are once again an excellent sacrificer of the queen, this time not even a temporary one. Queen e8 is possible, but much better is queen captures on c7. And it was in fact in this position that Richard Rapport resigned the game. He's already down one piece now, the queen just grabbed the rook, so he can capture the queen, but there is no good follow-up. If queen captures, just knight e4, and white has no moves. You can't get this bishop over here to attack the pinned piece. You can't get it to b4 as the rook covers b4. Knight captures on f2 is a terrible threat. You cannot defend it. The knight also covers e1. Whatever you play, let's say queen c1, just knight captures on f2, and white will not be in time to capture the rook. King g2 only move now, knight e1 check. It doesn't matter if you capture it with the bishop or with the queen. Knight d3, a discovered check will pick up the queen. So you could play something like this, knight d3 check, a discovered check from the rook. Queen blocks, captures, captures, and knight just moves. But here it's an endgame where Carlsen is up 2 pawns, and you don't play an endgame where Carlsen is up 2 pawns. And after knight e1 check, if you don't capture it, you could just move the king. Let's say you try king g1, still knight f3 check, king still has to go to g2. And now knight d3 check will just pick up the queen. There's no way around it. Queen captures on b2, knight captures, and well, it's just a terrible position for white. Still down 2 pawns. There's no playing this, but not only that, he's also down down a piece. So even worse, yeah, after queen captures on c7, Rapport decided that was it, we're not playing this game. So a very nice comeback by Magnus in this tournament, first losing game 1 to Ding, then beating Rapport with, with great style. We're not going to discuss the standings just yet, we're going to enjoy some of the games a bit more, and then we're going to show the standings. But yeah, I really hope you enjoyed it. That was the game. I would like to thank MNDN Video for a contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot, I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you soon. Continuing the coverage of the St. Louis Rapid and the Blitz event, continuing the Capablanca saga, and of course checking up on your suggestions. Thank you all, I will see you soon. Have an excellent rest of your day, and I'm now returning to enjoying my vacation. See you soon.